The looping Starship was introduced by Intamin in 1984 as a complement to the original pirate ship ride. The first two looping Starships produced opened at Busch Gardens Tampa and King's Dominion. The ride consists of a large gondola themed to one of 4 theming options or a custom design, with 10 rows of 5 seats, making for a capacity of 50 riders per cycle, facing each other. Later models were available with only 32 seats. The most popular theming option was the Space Shuttle theme. Intamin created a separate model of the looping Starship, simply named the Space Shuttle, with a standard Space Shuttle theme and size that allowed them to sell this design in large numbers throughout the 1980s and 90s. Looping Starship production essentially stopped in 1992, however Intamin continued to offer the model as well as support the model into the 2000s. A total of 21 looping Starships were produced, with 12 of these going to North America, 5 going to Japan, and 2 to Europe. The remaining 2 were sold to Australia and Southeast Asia. Most looping Starships have now closed. This is due to a number of factors. Ridership for these rides is not what it was in the past due to parks coming out with more and better inverting rides. Additionally, now that the Space Shuttle program has long since ended, many see the shuttle design as outdated rather than futuristic. Finally, the maintenance costs for these rides have been quite an issue, mostly due to the complex restraint system employed by these rides, consisting of an automatically lowering lap bar and an over-the-shoulder restraint. With all of these problems, only a few looping Starships remain operating. There are currently 5 looping Starships still in operation. 2 of them are in the US, Berserker at King's Dominion and Southern Star, originally named Friendzoid, at Carowinds. There's also Phoenix at Busch Gardens Tampa, which has been standing but not operating for a number of years now, and the ride has also been listed for sale a number of times. It's very unlikely that it will reopen at all, and even more unlikely that it will reopen at Busch Gardens Tampa. There are 2 more operating in Japan, Looping Starship at Yomiuri Land and Space Shuttle at Nagashima Spa Land. And 1 more operating in Malaysia, Pirate's Revenge at Sunway Lagoon. This unit was originally located at Australia's Wonderland Sydney. It's interesting to note that the only 2 remaining Looping Starships that still have their Space Shuttle design are the ones in Japan. All the other ones feature a more traditional pirate ship type of design. Something that's really interesting and worth mentioning is that Leesburg in Sweden had a looping Starship, but they actually modified it. It operated from 1989 until 2001 in its original configuration, and then in the 2001 off-season, they removed the counterweight structure, making it unable to do the full 360-degree loop, basically converting it back to a normal pirate ship. They also removed the over-the-shoulder restraints, making it a lap bar-only ride. Now, this also included a major modification to the fiberglass of the ride, making it look, in my opinion, quite out of place and kind of ugly compared to its original design. The ride was removed from Leesburg in 2008 and is currently still operating at the Italian theme park Movieland Park under the name BC-10 Airlines. Another looping Starship that received a major change was the Space Shuttle that originally opened at Six Flags Astroworld. The ride opened in 1986 and operated as one of the largest attractions for the park up until the park's closure in 2005. After this, the ride was removed and refurbished as well as rethemed. It was also combined with the Space Shuttle from Six Flags Over Georgia, which also closed in 2005. The new combined ride was themed to an ACME rocket from the Looney Tunes cartoons. This Franken ride operated at Six Flags Over Texas from 2006 to 2014, when it was closed to make space for the queue of Justice League Battle for Metropolis. The ride was scrapped, and parts of it can still be found in the park's scrapyard today. Alright, moving on a bit, here's my friend Bailey, who has operated Berserker at King's Dominion. Bailey, go ahead and walk us through an average ride cycle at Berserker.
Guests begin by walking through the entrance gates, placing anything they may lose mid-cycle on the side of the platform. Once everyone is situated on the bench designated to the row they waited in, the lap bars will come down and lock. There's about a 4 to 5 second time between locking where the bars will be at their tightest, and this is generally regarded as an unpleasant experience. Once the bars ease, the over-the-shoulder restraints are brought down by hand and operators check either by physical or visual confirmation. Once completed, the ride's entire restraint system is locked via 2 buttons on the back right of the boat and the ride can begin. Generally, you get 2 flips in the same direction, though sometimes 2 in the opposite direction, or even 3 are possible depending on motor speed. Once the ride comes to a full and complete stop, the unit will be unlocked with the same buttons and guests will be instructed to exit the ride area. One of the more unique aspects of this ride is that at times it needs to be corrected within a certain area in order for the unit's restraints to be unlocked. The panel operator will forward or reverse correct the unit by watching it swing until a dash on the bottom side is within 2 dashes marked on the platform. This type of ride also cannot be operated in any sort of weather with water accumulation, as the drive tires will begin to essentially hydroplane against the base of the unit.
The Space Shuttle version of the Looping Starship was prone to several modifications throughout the model's lifetime. For example, the one at Great Adventure came from Intamin with the words Challenger, referencing the shuttle of the same name on the side. That ride opened in 1985. After the Challenger disaster in January 1986, the Challenger text was completely painted over for the ride before it reopened in 1986. Almost all Looping Starships were modified to have some sort of net or cage over top the riders to prevent their loose articles from falling out and hitting riders on the ground. This was done to almost all Looping Starships, but several do still operate today without any kind of cage or covering. Additionally, the early Looping Starships came with engines attached to the back of the Space Shuttle. These engines were found to vibrate a lot during the ride, so after the first year or two of operation, around 1986, all of these Space Shuttle type Looping Starships had their engines removed, making the shuttle look a lot less realistic in my opinion. Well, now that we've talked about both the operation as well as some of the interesting quirks and stories of these rides, let's head out to Carowinds, where we're going to look at one of the remaining operating Looping Starships in the US, Southern Star, over there at Carowinds, where I rode it just about a week ago. I'm here in front of Southern Star at Carowinds. This is one of only 2 remaining Looping Starships in the United States, with the other being at King's Dominion. Now, this ride opened in 1986 as Friendzord. After 2005, it closed for an extensive refurbishment, and in 2007, it reopened as Southern Star, where it still operates now. Now, let's go for a ride. Alright, so we just got off Southern Star here at Carowinds. Now that is quite an interesting ride. The ride experience is very similar to what you might find on, say, Larson loops. It definitely felt very comparable to that, although a little bit more awkward than that. I think just the restraints, they're very bulky. It kind of holds you down in a certain uncomfortable way. I can kind of see why there's not many of these rides left. That being said, it's very unique, and the kind of hanging feeling you get when you're kind of halfway in between being upside down and not is very unique. So it's definitely an enjoyable ride. If you do get a chance to ride one, I definitely recommend it, because they are quite rare. Definitely has some very good hang time up at the top. Definitely feel like you're falling forward. But again, the restraints kind of detract from that. They kind of lower with a lot of pressure, the lap bars part especially, on your lap, and then it releases, and then you have the over-the-shoulder restraint as well. So it's a little bit uncomfortable. Kind of similar to what you might find on Top Spin, honestly. That's what it reminded me of. And then the cycle time on this one's not exactly the longest. I know a lot of the older ones ran with longer cycles. This one's cycle may not be the longest, but I think it's about the perfect length for the type of intensity that this ride is. So yeah, that's about everything we have here on Looping Starships. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Flat Ride of the Week, and we'll see you next week. Goodbye.